They called him too good to be true. Until his wife started dying. If you entered Umidike village and asked about the kindest man alive, 9 out of 10 people would mention Obinna without blinking. He was the man who greeted elders by kneeling, the man who paid school fees for children who weren't his, the man who never raised his voice, not even when cheated. Too nice, people said. Nice to a fault, but kindness, it turned out, did not protect him from destiny. Obinna's first wife was Amora. She was soft-spoken and gentle like morning rain. Their wedding was the kind people still talked about years later. White wrapper, live band, elders smiling like everything was finally right in the world. Obinna treated Amora like fragile glass. He cooked when she was tired, washed clothes when she was sick, and never allowed her to lift heavy things. When Amora became pregnant, the whole village celebrated. "This one is blessed," they said. Then one night, she complained of sharp pains. By morning, Amora was dead. Doctors said complications during pregnancy. The baby didn't survive either. Obinna cried bitterly. He sat by her grave for hours, staring like someone who had misplaced his soul. The village mourned with him. They said, "It is life. It happens." Nobody suspected anything. 2 years passed. People encouraged him to remarry. "You're still young. A good man shouldn't be alone." After much persuasion, Obinna married again, this time to Ngozi, a trader from the neighboring town. Ngozi was strong, lively, full of laughter. She brought color back into Obinna's compound. Again, Obinna was kind. Too kind. He supported her business. He refused to let her stress herself. Some women whispered, "This man pampers too much." Ngozi fell ill one rainy season. At first, it was just a cough, then weakness, then nights of fever. They took her to hospitals, prayer houses, herbalists. Nothing worked. Ngozi died quietly on a Tuesday afternoon. Diagnosis: an aggressive infection that spread too fast. People cried. But this time, fear crept in quietly, like a snake. 2 wives. 2 deaths. Still, nobody accused Obinna. He was grieving. Always grieving. Years later, the elders said he needed to marry again, not for love, but for legacy. A man must leave children behind. Reluctantly, Obinna agreed. By the time Obinna married his 3rd wife, he was no longer the innocent man the village once knew. He was careful, too careful. Her name was Rachel. Unlike the others, Rachel did not rush into love. She asked questions. She listened to the whispers. She knew about Amora. She knew about Ngozi. Everyone did. But when Obinna looked at her and said, "I don't know why they died, but I know I love them," something in his voice convinced her. Still, she entered the marriage with 1 foot inside and 1 foot ready to run. Obinna noticed everything. From the first night, he stopped sleeping deeply. If Rachel coughed in her sleep, he sat up. If she turned suddenly, he reached out. He watched her breathe like counting beads. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3, only relaxing when the rhythm stayed steady. He documented her health like a doctor: morning temperature, meals eaten, mood changes, every ache, every sigh. Rachel noticed, "You're treating me like glass. Why do you need to note my every move down?" She laughed. But Obinna didn't laugh. He had buried laughter twice already. Then, suddenly Rachel fell sick. It didn't start dramatically. It started with tiredness. She would sit quietly, staring into space. Her food remained untouched longer than usual. At night, she complained of feeling cold, even under thick blankets. Obinna panicked. Afraid of losing his 3rd wife, Obinna rushed her to the hospital at the first sign. Blood tests, scans, monitoring. Doctors said nothing was wrong. But Rachel was dying slowly, just like the first two wives did. That answer frightened Obinna more than bad news. The village noticed his fear. They saw him pacing hospital corridors like a man being chased by something only he could see. Rachel's condition worsened slowly. Her heart rate dropped at odd hours. One hot afternoon she woke up screaming, claiming she saw a woman standing by the bed. A woman? Obinna asked, his voice shaking. Who is she? What did she tell you? Rachel nodded weakly. She didn't speak. She just looked angry. Obinna couldn't stop thinking about what Rachel said before she slipped away again. Her voice had been weak, almost floating, but the words were clear enough to haunt him. Who was the woman Rachel saw? Obinna sat by Rachel's hospital bed, staring into space, replaying her words that had lost their power. No, no. Impossible. Maybe it's just hallucination, he told himself. People see things when they are sick. God, please let her not die. How do I explain the deaths of 3 women? God, who did I offend? But the heavens were silent. Rachel's condition worsened that night. It was as if something was slowly pulling her away, inch by inch. Obinna leaned close and whispered, Rachel. I'm here. Her lips moved, barely. She doesn't want me here, Rachel murmured. Obinna froze. Who? He asked, panic rising. Rachel didn't answer. Her eyes fluttered once, then closed. Obinna gasped and called in the doctors with a loud voice. Doctors rushed in. Nurses shouted instructions. Obinna stood there, helpless, watching strangers fight for a life he loved. Then suddenly, all the chaos stopped, and silence filled the room. A doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, he said softly. Rachel was gone. Obinna let out a loud cry, tearing his clothes in anguish as he knelt on the floor before her lifeless body. This time, the village did not mourn quietly. Rachel's body had barely been laid down when her mother arrived, screaming like someone whose soul had been torn apart without warning. You killed her, she cried, pointing at Obinna with shaking hands. You killed my only child. People gathered, forming a circle, but no one defended him. 3 women. Rachel's mother screamed, 3 wives and 3 graves. Are we blind? Obinna tried to speak, his mouth opened, nothing came out. Because how do you defend yourself when death keeps agreeing with the accuser? From that day, Obinna became miserable. People avoided him like a plague. Women hid their daughters indoors when he passed. Others whispered prayers under their breath as he walked by. Children were warned not to greet him. Even greetings were dangerous now. Obinna's compound became a place nobody visited. Silence settled there like a curse. After Rachel's burial, Obinna stopped pretending all was fine. At first he defended himself, tried to explain he knew nothing about the death of his wives, but soon, he accepted all of it in silence. One cold night, after Obinna drifted into another uneasy sleep, he had a dream. He dreamt of a woman he had never buried, but knew very well. Amoka, his secret girlfriend many years ago. She stood at a distance, holding a baby wrapped in cloth. She never spoke. She only looked at him angrily and disappeared into thin air. But why was she in his dreams when he hadn't even seen her for years? The next morning, he visited a traditionalist who could see deep things in the village. The old woman made some incantations, looked him hard and spoke. You left a woman to die alone, she said calmly. You don't get to build homes on a foundation of blood. Obinna shook his head. How do you mean? A woman was pregnant for you years ago. You walked away when she needed you most. And she died from complications. On the day she died, she kept asking, where is Obinna? On the night she died, weak and bleeding, she cursed you. If I must die alone, she said, then Obinna will never know peace in his home. Let every woman he calls wife taste my pain. And when he remembers me, she added softly, let it already be too late. Then she died. Obinna collapsed when he heard this, not because of fear, but because he remembered everything. He knew Amaka was pregnant for him, but he ran away because he was afraid of ruining his parents' reputation. His father was a strict man who was well respected in the village. He knew he would be in trouble if he found out he impregnated a woman out of wedlock. He saw her messages, read her letters, but never responded, and when he stopped hearing from her, he thought she has finally accepted that he was not coming back. He never heard of her death. Suddenly, everything made sense. Rachel seeing a woman now made sense. It wasn't hallucinations. It was a wounded soul tied to unfinished pain. Obinna traced her father's compound in the next village and went as a broken man. Amoka's mother refused to offer him a seat. Her father stood with his back against the wall, eyes red with old anger that had never healed. You have come now. Her mother asked bitterly, when the ground has already swallowed our daughter. Obinna fell to his knees. He told them he was wrong, that he was young and didn't fully understand life, that he was afraid of what his parents would do to him when they found out. Her father laughed, not in humor, but in pain. She called your name until she couldn't speak again. The words hit Obinna like blows. He bowed his head and cried openly, apologizing again and again. I failed her, please forgive me. He said. After a long silence, Amoka's mother spoke, if you are truly sorry, you must acknowledge her pain properly. They told him what must be done. He must publicly accept responsibility. He must perform the rites Amoka deserved but never received. He must speak her name without denial, and he must ask for forgiveness, not to escape consequences, but to honor her suffering. Obinna agreed to everything. When he returned to his own parents to tell them the truth, they were furious. You have dragged our name through mud. His father shouted, 3 wives dead, and now this hidden shame. His mother wept, not just from embarrassment, but from heartbreak. Why didn't you speak? She cried, why did you let pride destroy so many lives? Obinna knelt before them too. I am sorry, he said through tears. I thought silence would bury my mistakes. His parents turned away from him, not out of hatred, but deep disappointment. Still, they allowed him to do what needed to be done. After the appeasement rites were completed, something changed. That night, Obinna dreamed of Amoka one last time. She stood under a tree, no longer thin or angry, no baby in her arms, no pain in her eyes. She smiled, not warmly, not lovingly, but peacefully. She said nothing. She didn't come closer. Then she turned and walked away. Obinna woke up crying, but this time, the tears felt different. He never saw her again, but the damage was already done. The village did not forgive easily. Even after everything, no one gave Obinna a wife. Parents refused openly. We cannot risk it, they said. Appeasement doesn't raise the dead. Women from neighboring villages tried at first, but the moment they heard his story, they disappeared. Some left quietly, others ran in fear. Obinna grew old alone, no wife, no children, no laughter in his compound, only memories. Years later, Obinna died quietly. Sad and alone, the village buried him respectfully. And until today, people use his story to warn young men against living recklessly and denying responsibility. This story is a reminder that walking away doesn't end a responsibility, it only postpones the payment. Every ignored call, every delayed action, is a choice with a cost. What you refuse to face in life will confront you later, in another form. You can apologize and still lose everything. Forgiveness does not always restore what your actions destroyed. Being a good person does not cancel past wrongs. Kindness today cannot erase cruelty committed through neglect yesterday. Some consequences don't end with repentance. If this story stirred up something in you, Leave us a comment, drop a heart and give us a follow. Thank you for watching.